The Madison County Producers Organization is basically a loose-knit organization of about 25 vendors. About half of us grow crops or raise livestock for sale here at the farmers market. And then we also have a significant group that does baked goods. In fact, my wife made some brownies last night and brought in to kind of share with the community. And we also have one vendor, the Furby family, that grows their own wheat, and then will mill the wheat into flour and then produce bread right in their home kitchen. So it's kind of a rewarding experience, as well as the other baked goods here at the market. And lastly, we have basically a cottage industry of locally made furniture and crafts that are really cool. Last year I purchased a beanbag game or a cornhole game that was locally produced, which technically I could have gotten on the internet from another vendor, but it was made here in Madison County by local citizens. In fact, I went back and followed up with that same vendor there a few weeks ago, and they're putting together a custom-made cornhole game for a friend of mine that's going to be lime green and aqua blue, which we couldn't have gotten on the internet. But my personal experience at the farmers market, my wife and I have been with the group for about 3 years now, and it's very rewarding. We've lived in the community for many years. In fact, my dad's family first moved to Madison County in the 1820s, so it's kind of rewarding for me to be out in the field and kind of think about what great-grandpa might have experienced or those kinds of things, trying to raise corn himself. When Sandy and I first got involved, we live in town, right here in London, about a mile away, and we didn't have any ground of our own, so to speak, to get involved with the farmers market. Fortunately, we have a good friend that has about 2,000 acres, and he's looking to make that transition that Brian had discussed a few minutes ago of going from a large-scale producer of corn and soybeans and making the ground more profitable by, say, producing vegetables for the local market. And that's kind of where Sandy and I come in. He allowed us to use a couple acres, and basically on a handshake type of agreement. Now, going from, say, a 3,000 square foot house in London to 2 acres 4 miles away from the house has been a significant transition for us. Of course, there's been a lot of learning over that time too. Our first year, we just grew 1 acre of sweet corn and 1 acre of vegetables. And the second year, we made a little bit of a transition and started using the black plastic mulch and irrigation we produced that was purchased up in Marion County, in fact, and shipped down UPS. So we're trying to integrate that local Ohio type of production, even with our products that we get from our supplies. This year we've expanded the sweet corn to about 2 acres, with about a half acre of vegetables, because frankly, the first year we had 300 pepper plants. We had so many peppers, we just couldn't find enough for the market. My wife would literally be up till 3 or 4 in the morning canning, freezing, dehydrating peppers as much as she could. And then last year we had a lot of cabbage. So we eat well during this harvest time as well as during the winter with her contribution to the preservation of the crop. What we look to do over the next few years, maybe make a transition where we can do this full time. Personally, my experience in the past was I worked evenings, so I could get out into the crop early in the morning during the cool of the day and get most of the work done. Now I'm working days, so it's a little bit more of a difficulty getting out in 90-degree heat like this past week and kind of keeping up with the challenges. I told one of the other growers earlier that I feel like an expert in weed control here in Madison County now, between foxtail and ragweed and all the other challenges that we've been faced with. But there's a whole list of things here I put on the post-its earlier to try to make notes about. I don't think it'd be worthwhile to try to read every detail of those post-its. But in closing, I should mention that, like so many other groups around the community now, we're on Facebook. Our group officially is called Madison County Producers, but most people around the community speak of us as the London Farmers Market. So if you're on Facebook and type in London Farmers Market, you may want to include Ohio in case there's another London Farmers Market in Iowa or Illinois. But you'll see our page. We'll try to keep it updated from time to time. You'll also find links to other Facebook pages for the Madison Press, Soil and Water Conservation District, the County Commissioners, as well as other churches and businesses in the community. Are there any questions or anything else I should add before I close out?
Hey Charlie, how realistic is it to expect people to start expanding as you're doing, an acre by acre each year?
I think it's realistic, and it gets down to the personal situation. In September, I'll turn 49 years old, so I kind of have to be realistic of how strong my back's going to be in 5 years. What, say, if I'm going to have grandkids along in a few years to help contribute to the operation, or how that's going to work. Because fortunately, I've got a couple of good friends that, like the teenage kids, will like to come out and help a little bit in the field or that kind of thing, or a good friend from one of the local businesses. That's the biggest challenge for me. And on a related note, I should mention that there's many things to balance in an operation like this, whether if it's going organic or trying to responsibly use pesticides and herbicides in growth of the products. And that kind of gets back to that question of growth. If I was going to, say, go commercial, there may be a little bit more of a challenge. I'm trying to have capital, equipment, and all those things that would be required for it. But since it's primarily my wife and I, we kind of stay on a limited basis, basically an acre or two, I think will be our longer-term goal. And then from there, maybe develop more of a preservation type of situation where we can take the product to, whether it's the London market or expand into the Columbus market.
Are you finding that the local demand for locally produced products is strong and growing locally?
Yes, here in Madison County, and my hometown's over in Champaign County. In fact, I just took a phone call from a gentleman who will be returning from California in a few days, has a roadside market up near Mechanicsburg. So we'll be trucking over there regularly. And we've been down to the North Market representing the London Farmers Market in Columbus and had a good response there. And we've also done some research into markets around Worthington, Upper Arlington, as well as Columbus proper.
Okay. So you're the Madison County growers are looking not just at the immediate local market, but some of the region. That's
yeah.
Great.
And on a related note, I should mention some of the role models of the local community, not only here in Madison County, but Michael's Farms over in Urbana have been a great resource. I don't work with them directly, but since I grew up in Champaign County, it was always kind of an inspiration for this type of operation, as well as my good friend Dale Miller, who I met over 30 years ago when we were in college, up in Delaware County, Miller Country Garden, you might be familiar with, from Route 37. And lastly, up in the Toledo area, a good friend Carl Herzl, the Herzl family, they have a Bay Fratelli line of products that are very popular and have worked out well over the years. And basically, they're all family operations that have found a process that works well for them, whether if it's expansion, preservation, or other marketing aspects of the program. Thanks for your time. Have a great weekend.